Step up your game.
All right, guys, welcome to Words with Woodsman podcast. We're so glad that you're here. This is our 6th episode. Can you guys believe that?
Yeah.
Like, maybe we're getting the hang of this thing, or
I think we are. Did you just start this right at the beginning when we were just talking?
yes. Usually I count this thing down, but this time I just hit play and I just started rolling. But unfortunately, the guys stopped their nonsense right before it picked up. So you had a spidey sense.
Well, there's just as much banter behind the scenes
Yes.
as there is live.
Some we can record.
Yeah,
Some we cannot.
Some. Yep.
You know, we're having a lot of fun with this. I'm really enjoying the conversation that we've been having throughout this whole process. So you guys, let's kind of chat a little bit. Got any weekend plans? Anything fun going on? I know what me and Randy are doing.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you told me first you guys are going to ride bulls.
No.
And then I asked the
we're
question.
going to the rodeo.
Okay,
To the
that was not made clear.
That would be awesome to ride the bulls.
I said,
But-
"What are you guys doing?" You said, "We're riding bulls." I'm like, "What?"
I
Yeah,
think
he
Randy has like a secret, like, actually I'm not sure it's secret. He has his dream job, I think, would be a rodeo clown.
I think it would be fun running around. I don't want to say in makeup, but
How's
you're
that
as a
different
clown.
than what you do now?
I don't. Now I don't wear makeup. There I can wear makeup, right?
I hope
And then
the
I
dream
just
is
get
beyond just wearing makeup.
and you get to be funny. Like you're a clown, you're a rodeo clown. And then you have the bull possibly coming at you, or you got to save the bull rider, and the adrenaline. And we just talked about this last week about what makes you happy, and you know, after a while it leaves. You know how happy it'd be to always be like chased by a bull, and the adrenaline of possibly getting popped in the mouth by its hoof, and it's a challenge to stay away from it.
That's where it goes off the rails for me. Okay, so like you had me with the makeup, but then you lost me with the 2,500-pound animal trying to kill me.
And then the other thing is, as we talked about, how does an insurance company not be the biggest sponsor for a rodeo?
I don't think they like if everyone became a rodeo clown. I think they would just
Be uninsurable.
uninsurable.
They got to be insurable. I mean, you think they're
do you
going?
Don't have to be anything.
Do you understand how insurance works?
Yeah, but I don't want to get into
They don't wanna
my
pay.
theory behind insurance. Because
Okay.
we'll go down a rabbit
That's a
hole.
hot topic right now too.
Yeah, but you know, the injuries that you see them go, and then man, they still look good coming back out here a week later.
Maybe that's what the makeup's for. The makeup is to cover all the bruises.
Yeah, that's why. Now it makes sense. You don't got really a black eye. You got to paint it black. So
You're
nobody
really
knows
missing half your face.
You can
Yeah.
paint your face for the next episode.
Okay.
Isn't there that thing in like Mexico where like they run down the streets and the bulls chase
Running
them?
of the bulls in
bulls.
Spain.
Is that Spain? Yeah. I also saw another one where I'm less interested in that. There's also the rolling of the cheese. Have you seen that one?
No.
Like they take this big wheel of cheese and they've been doing this for like 300 years.
I thought that was a Cheez-It commercial.
No. Well, they did do that in the Cheez-It commercial. There's also that guy like sliding down the ice, that Super Bowl commercial. But that's a different thing. But literally they take a big wheel of cheese and they just roll it down a hill and people chase it. Like, I don't know do you win the cheese? When
Are you on the moon?
Do you catch it? No. It's like in Italy or Venice or somewhere where I think these are two different countries, but aren't they? But it rolls. I don't know geography. It rolls down the hill. I had that Mississippi education, and people chase it. And I don't know do you catch it? Do you get to eat it? But who wants cheese?
Hold on. Are they chasing it or running from it?
No, they're chasing it. So it's less exciting as the running of the bulls, but
They're not going to catch it if it's rolling down the hill and they're running. They're going to go face first going down the hill.
It's like brick.
Which, that would be pretty funny.
But who wants to eat cheese that's rolled down the street? Is my second follow-up to
Cut
that.
the inside.
Yeah, you cut around the outside of the bun.
The rind. Is it called rind? Is that right? I know watermelon has rind.
I don't know. You just like shave off the edges and boom, the middle.
Shred
is
it.
right there. Yeah,
Shred it.
It's aged.
Yeah. It's got a little dirt and
Natural.
some rocks and some roadkill. What if it takes out like a cat or something on the way down? Like, yes,
Stuffed cheese.
Oh gosh. Okay.
But hold a sec. The rodeo, what is it you're looking forward to? Like, what do you do at a rodeo?
My goal is to get Randy on the Jumbotron.
Okay.
Yes.
That's my goal. And so my wife has also said that she's dreading this a little bit. Okay, so for those of you that know my wife, like camping for her is like a Holiday Inn. Okay, so she's not outdoorsy at all, and she will admit this, right? She will admit that she does not like bugs, she does not like dirt, she does not like outside. Like, she loves going into nature, but she's just not she doesn't want to live there, to be clear. But my wife has a weird fascination with bull riding. Like, it's the one sport that if I turn it on TV, she will sit there and watch it and just be amazed. Like, if you're scrolling through the TV guide,
She's like, stop.
She's like, stop. It's the PBR. The PBR's on. So my wife has actually been the driving factor on these PBR tickets this weekend.
Yep.
Okay.
And I usually use it because it's around my birthday.
Your birthday.
My birthday. And so that's always like, hey, we're going to do it because I'm going to use it for an excuse to buy them because it's close to my birthday. But I just like to watch it to see if somebody's going to get hurt or see how far they throw the rider. And
So they can do an insurance claim.
yeah.
But
But would it be workman's comp?
we're back on this again. I guess in a way it would be.
My bad.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, all the injuries you get, the broken arms. I mean, heck, the guy last year when we went, the guy that won it to go to the Nationals broke his arm during the ride, and he didn't even get flung off. He just
Well, he found out that he had won the night from the hospital.
Yeah.
So literally. So yeah, I mean, I understand why she's fascinated with it, but it was so weird. Kind of the way that came about is I was showing her YouTube videos, and there used to be this bull that was named Bodacious, like back in I think it was like the late 90s, early 2000s. And this bull I'm going to mispronounce this completely, but it was a Brahma bull, Brahma bull. But it's the kind of bulls that they don't usually have horns, but they got like this camel's hump on their shoulder, but they're evidently like super tough bulls. And they have the ability of being just super mean and all this kind of stuff. Well, they love using them in the rodeo. Well, Bodacious was one of those bulls, and he evidently had this maneuver he would do where he would
Special move?
No,
Yeah,
serious.
like Mortal Kombat?
Yes.
I'm 100% serious. He had this maneuver where he would go down on his front feet, his back feet are up in the air, and he would throw his head back simultaneously. So that rider would go down like with gravity and then get smacked in the face with his head. Mm-hmm. And so he was known to bust teeth and break noses and this was back before a lot of them had some of the safety gear that they have
they
now.
wear hockey helmets.
They wear hockey helmets now.
Yeah.
But literally you get a broken nose, you get a broken jaw. He injured so many. So I'm showing Casey this footage, and I'm sitting here watching her, and she's on to the next video, and then on to the next video, and I'm like, I've created an addiction. What have I done? And I never thought that this would ever happen. And so ever since then, every year when the PBR comes through Knoxville, we have to go. There's no question about it.
Cool.
Yeah. So you got any fun plans this weekend, Andy?
The family and I are headed to Florida. And
Florida.
We're going to go fishing.
Don't wind up on the news.
So-
Don't put your reel in the sand again.
Not going to end up on the news, but I'll tell you, I was having some issues with my arm yesterday.
Bull riding?
No, not bull riding. My right hand wasn't feeling great, and just side story, I figured it might be something chiropractic, so I called the chiropractor today, and they answered the phone, and they go, Andrew, what'd you do this time? And I was like,
So you're on a first name basis.
First name basis.
Not
Number
Mr.
one client.
Not Mr. Fickthorn.
And I said, I don't know, but can I come in? And they're like, come on in. So got in, and she goes, did you fall off another wall? Did you have another fishing accident? And I said, no, I don't know what happened. And she's like, you seriously don't know? And I was like, no. And she goes, she touched around, and she's like, based on the symptoms, I think you fell asleep like this. I was like, seriously? She's like, that's it.
So you slept on your arm.
I slept with my arm elevated, and this
Above his
arm
head.
above his head, and this arm already has a tear in it, and so I pinched a nerve somehow that led to my hand.
Well, I will give you the wisdom that my dad gave me. He said, son, when you're young, you get injured doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
When you get older, you start getting injured doing normal stuff. And I don't know if there's anything like more like normal or routine than sleeping. So
Waking up
congratulations.
Injured.
Well, how often as you get older do you wake up and go,
I don't know, Randy, tell us. You just had a birthday and you're...
yeah, and waking up gets harder and harder.
Now, the story where you that was a cool story. Okay, so won't you share that? Like
Wait.
the rock story.
Oh, hold on. She said, did you hurt yourself again on another fishing?
Right.
Like, how many times do you hurt yourself fishing?
It was an accident, not on purpose.
How many times where she goes, another fishing accident?
Well, so last time, for those in East Tennessee, they know that they lower the water level.
Yes,
So there's
every
a particular
winter.
spot where there's a wall, and when the water's up, it's about a foot out of the water.
It's actually below the dam.
Yeah, it's below the dam. And when I went, it was about 8-9 feet above me because they had let the water down so low. So I had this genius idea that if I had everyone stand on the other side of the boat and we timed it right, that I could jump up and, I don't know, like grab onto the wall and pull myself up.
So to be clear, it's a concrete pile. I've been there, so
Yeah.
I've been there with you before.
Yeah.
It's a concrete piling coming off of the dam, and it's like it's wide enough. It's like the width of a sidewalk, so like you could like walk on it.
Yeah.
And so your boat is how much lower than you said?
I mean, I could reach it, but...
And you're a
with
tall guy.
Full extension, 6 foot plus another foot of arm. So let's say it was 8 feet up. But I had some elevation from the boat. So I thought if I could just jump up and get my arms on it like this, that I would have the strength to pull myself up. There's nothing to grab onto.
You like cliffhangered, like this
Yeah.
is like Sylvester Stallone.
I had all the weight on the left side as I jumped off the right side. I got onto the wall and I got it like this, and then I started to slowly fall. So then I freaked out because the boat is now not there.
Wait,
the dam's running,
Wait, your counterweight was it your 8-year-old?
and my 12-year-old.
so wait. The counterweight, you're a grown man, like over 6 feet tall,
This was a genius plan.
and your counterweight is an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. You're looking at maybe 100 pounds total, 120 pounds total between the two kids.
Not much.
You didn't think this through.
Nope, did not think this through. I thought I would jump up, pull myself up, tie the rope, we'd be secured, good to go. I started to fall and I freaked out and my arm ripped up and I tore the labrum and the rotator cuff and my arm was not in good shape.
Well, and it's a blessing that you hung on, because if you would have fell, like that water is usually churning.
It was churning.
And so that was actually quite a very dangerous. I don't think TWRA approved that maneuver.
No.
We probably need to cut this out because now there's going to be a sign you're not allowed on the
We
wall.
didn't say which dam, we didn't say which wall. Every one of them has a wall.
We did
now
say
there's
East
going to be
Tennessee.
signs when we go back out there.
Now, we'll say the favorite, I've been fishing with you down there, and my favorite part about this whole thing is a lot of people don't realize Andy has a remote controlled trolling motor.
I pilot.
Yeah, on his boat, okay? And so he goes to launch his boat, and he'll put his 8-year-old in the boat.
Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble.
I know, you might get you in trouble. Does your wife know this story?
No.
And so he'll, maybe she won't listen to this
When
podcast.
it's busy.
Okay, when it's busy, he launched the 8-year-old, and now he was going to drive. He drove him back with the thing, but people are standing there like, it's just like a kid just being launched into the water. There's no rope.
like,
There's
Daddy.
no Dad. And I really think that like Brady chums this up a little bit. Brady's like, bye.
As the boat trips
As
away.
the boat trips away.
Yeah. If I lost connection, you know how bad that would be?
That would be bad. Yeah, you'd be swimming.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, he's just going to go downstream. He's not going really towards any danger.
I know. Someone would take me out.
Hopefully
but that
your
would be
wife won't.
Horrible.
Hopefully your wife doesn't listen to this episode.
And
It's
as
okay.
you're pulling away.
I'm not sure any of our wives listen to the whole thing.
I know.
So that we might be safe.
This is tucked in the middle of the verse.
Yeah, but if one of them listens to it,
They're gonna tell the
report.
others.
Yeah,
yeah.
this part in the podcast you need to listen to.
Yeah. So no one do that, okay? Or we may not have Andy next week, okay?
He may not be back.
He may not be back. We'll host auditions for Andy's role.
You just make fun of Randy. It's
Here
not
on the
that
Words
hard.
and Woodsman
Yeah, it's
podcast.
really
Needless to say, my arm is better now. I'm in good shape, and I will be fishing in Florida this week. So looking forward to it.
So you're brand new from your sleep injury.
Yeah, it was a bad injury, man.
Well, like I saw you, like, because we both serve at student ministry on Wednesday nights, and like this dude is like, I went and got him an ice pack because he was like writhing in pain, Randy. Like he's like sitting here, like I thought maybe it was like it was almost like a baseball injury or like
I wish.
Yeah, no, it was a sleeping injury. Yeah. Well, guys, we're coming up on our very first break. We'll take a break and we will be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. We're about to dive off into our next passage in James. And I think on the last podcast, we ended on verse 11. Mm-hmm. So we're going to pick up with 12. And I'm excited about this. I think there's a lot of, when I was studying this week, there's a lot of things like, you know, it's really cool when kind of some of the things that like you're walking through with different people or maybe even personally walking through when you're studying God's word, like it ministers to you too. So I will talk more about that in a little bit, but so I'll start reading with verse 12. It says this, it said, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those that love him." Verse 13, "When tempted, no one should say, 'God is tempting me,' for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's fully grown, gives birth to death." And so, man, there's just so much to unpack there. Like, anything jump out at you guys with this one? I want to kind of save my point for in just a second.
It says God doesn't try to entice you.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to entice me to be rich, to help give money to people to help them. Right?
I don't know if you paid attention on the last podcast. Well,
No,
I think the first thing is like in that first line is, blessed of the one who perseveres under trial. Because I think there's a common misconception. I don't know who started this. I know that, us as believers, we haven't always done a good job of when we lead someone new to Jesus of telling them that, hey, just because you've started your relationship with Jesus doesn't mean that your problems are going to go away.
I think that is one of the hardest things, especially working with students.
Yeah.
They accept the Lord, they take the next step, they get baptized, and they think everything's just going to be perfect.
We're going to coast now.
Yeah, we're going to coast. Like, I've got it. And that's not the case.
Not at all. Yeah. In fact, I would even say the opposite. I think that actually you begin to face more trials, more problems, because, before you follow Jesus, I don't think you're as big of a target to the enemy, because the Bible's very clear that we have there are two beings that are each have and this is from the men's night that we shared. I think was it last pod? Yeah, that one. That speaker, he made a very good point. I thought this was incredible. He said that God and the devil each have a plan, a blueprint, and a purpose to our lives. We get to choose which one we follow. And God's plan is to give us life and give it to us abundantly through a relationship with him. The Bible's very clear that the devil's plan is to steal, kill, and destroy your life. And the thing is before you become a believer, you're not really that much of a target, because you're not doing things to move the kingdom forward, right?
Yeah.
But when you become a believer and you step into this life with Jesus, you join the team, right? You've painted a target on your back. And I don't say that to scare people, but that's just the reality, because the blessings that come out of that are so much greater. You've got someone in the fight with you, being the Holy Spirit that helps you. But you're going to face trials. And remember, James is writing this to believers. And so he's saying, hey, blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood that test, they're going to receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to them.
Well, and so we have the blueprint, we have the Bible that tells us what we should do.
Right.
But to your point, we've got to make that decision, and that's the hard part. Because sometimes there's a reason why you're tempted by something.
Right.
And it comes down to us.
Well, and the thing is, that leads us, I think, right into this next verse of when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me. Like, God doesn't tempt us. He allows things. He may allow a temptation into our life, but he's not the one that's specifically tempting us.
Yeah. It's that little, you know, how you got the things on your shoulders.
That imagery, that cartoon.
Yeah. That's trying to like, hey, come on, this will be good. But I also think when you become a believer, you start noticing things a little bit more that you know you shouldn't be doing. So it stands out more, which becomes harder because before it was natural. You know, now I'm not supposed to be doing that because that's not right. You know, sex before marriage, like before you probably didn't care. Now you're kind of like, well, I want to go the right way because I'm following Jesus. Or some friends you hang out with that aren't the best people for you. And
Right.
it becomes hard because they're going to start saying, oh, because you think you're all good because you're following Jesus, especially with kids and students. That becomes hard because now you're the outcast because you're not doing the cool stuff. You're not, you know, doing things that you know aren't what you're supposed to do.
I've got a friend named Randy I've been praying for.
Good luck on that.
Aren't we all? we're going to create a Randy prayer group. But the thing is those trials. Like how many times? And this is to me is one of the beautiful things about following Jesus, is he will, you know, he gives us a promise in Scripture that. And this is a promise only for believers. I've seen this verse used out of context before incorrectly. And it's the verse that says, you know, God works all things for the good of those that love him and live according to his purpose. That promise isn't for everybody. And so many times we'll use that promise and we're like, because it's a real feel-good verse, right? It's like, yeah, it makes you feel good inside. But that verse was only for believers. And the beauty about following God is not only will he use the good things in your life, but he'll also use the bad things in your life to make you closer to him, to give you more joy, more maybe compassion or empathy for other people. And this verse, you know, it says, blessed is the one who perseveres under trial. You know what thought hit me this week? And it's a story from the Old Testament. As I was studying this, I began to kind of think through this even more, and it was the story of Jonah and the whale. A lot of people look at that story, and I want to encourage our listeners to go read it, right? But Jonah and the whale, you look at that story where God told Jonah, hey, I want you to go to this town. I want you to tell them about me. And it was a town in Assyria at the time, and the historical background there was the Jewish people and the Assyrians hated one another. More so, the Jewish people hated the Assyrians because the Assyrians were ruthless. Like they were awful, and they would like torture people. They actually perfected siege warfare, which is when you like surround a town and starve it to death. And so they were very like ruthless in battle, to the point where the rest of the world around them hated them for that. And so God tells Jonah to go tell them about him, so that he'll save them, right? Rescue them, keep destruction. And Jonah wanted that destruction to happen. And so Jonah runs from that. He gets on the boat, and we know the story, and the seas are rough, and he tells the men, hey, throw me overboard. He has this moment of clarity of, hey, this is happening because I'm disobeying God. And so he throws him overboard. Well, a lot of people think that the whale was part of the punishment that swallowed him, or the big fish, as the scripture says. But the whale was actually part of his salvation in that. Jonah would have drowned if the whale wouldn't have swallowed him. And oftentimes when we think about our trials, like my brain, and I think this was the Holy Spirit, my brain went to that of, oh my gosh, how often do we look at these trials? Because it's easy to do, because no one wants, if I was in control of my life, like I wouldn't choose any bad thing to ever happen, right? Like I don't think any of us would. But how many things would we miss out on as far as, because how many times have you been through something bad and looked back on it and been like, oh my gosh, that taught me something, that made me a better husband or a better dad or a better like follower of Jesus. It made me a better like human being. So
Yeah, well, I definitely have had we'll say one of them, experienced to be a better father/husband. Because I threw a fit when I came home because the wife and the kids were home, and the trash cans were laying around because the wind blew them over, and I got mad and drove over them because I was like, they are that lazy not to come out and get them, which apparently the trash just went out prior to me getting there. And then my wife seen it and she goes, now we got to go buy new ones. So you just wasted money.
Wait, you ran over the trash can?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because the kids were home and nobody picked them up, and I was
You
mad.
don't get mad at me.
You think that sleeping injury was going to get you?
My friend hit me with the car.
So that made me grow up to like stop overreacting, look at things differently, just, yeah.
Well, and the thing is like I think back on my life and I think back of like different setbacks or disappointments, right? Like maybe not getting the job that you wanted or getting fired from a job, like all those different things. Like they teach you stuff, right? And I've experienced both those things. Like I've experienced both losing the job and not getting the job that I was going after, right? And I did not look at that as a whale at the time. I may be in the negative light of like, oh my gosh, like I did not want this to happen. But in the end, God taught me something from that. And that's not without empathy, right? Because I believe that when we're in the middle of our trials, God deeply cares for us. Like he is concerned with our pain. He's not just cold looking at it going, well, this is going to teach you something, right? Like, I don't think it's that kind of relationship, but he allows those things in our lives to rescue us because he sees a bigger picture than we see.
Yeah, I had a meeting this morning with someone, and they asked me for my story. And I was kind of walking through, when I accepted Jesus as a child, some of the hardships as a family growing up and kind of how I got to Knoxville. And as I continue to put the pieces together, you could see God in every step. But I'm not talking 1, 2, 3. I'm talking 15, 16, 8, Then I was like, oh my gosh, just an epiphany one after another. And sometimes it just helps to look back and see how good God's been. We have a good God.
We do.
Yes. A good
we
God.
Absolutely do. And the thing is, even the more the warnings that James gives us, like down to verse 14, he said, when each person is tempted, when they're dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. And, Paul talks about this in his letters that later on in the Bible where, he talks about being at war with what's going on within him. Like you got the Holy Spirit and you've got those old desires. Paul calls them the flesh, right? Mm-hmm. And they're constantly at war with another because, and I think especially when you first give your life to Jesus, and I mean throughout your life, because I've been a follower since I was 8 years old. I didn't get saved the other night, right? Like that at that event that we joked about.
We're proud of you
on the last podcast. But I gave my life to Jesus when I was 8, and still today, like all these years later, I'm still dealing with the flesh, and I will deal with that until the day I die, because we're human beings. We still have that tendency of anger and or lust or wanting to get ahead or all these different or lying or all, pretty much we can make a long list, right? Yeah. All these things that go on, and he's very clear of, hey, be careful. And I love that he uses the word dragged away. Like, don't be dragged away. And that's, to me, the thought that hit me with that is that means you're getting dragged away from something. Right? Like,
you're not supposed to be there. You're like, but you're like, you just can't turn away from it.
Right. And the thing is he says the verse before, he said, God's not doing that, right? God's not tempting you, but you're being dragged away from, being at the feet of the Father. And the solution, if you look in the opposite of that, the solution is to stay close. And I think there's more things in that of being smart about temptation, right? Like if you struggle with alcohol, it's probably not a good idea to go to a bar, right? Like, or put yourself in those situations. And there's nothing wrong with, in fact, it's quite godly to know what your weakness is. Mm-hmm. Like if you struggle with pornography, for example, like you probably shouldn't be sitting on the computer alone in your house, right? Like go do something, go for a walk, call up a buddy, go fishing, go play golf. Like this word dragged away, it just makes me think of that. It makes me think of, setting up those boundaries in place that help us, because it's not that God's trying to enforce this morality code because he sent his son to die on a cross because we couldn't live by that, right? We weren't going to make it. But it's so that he wants us to have a better life. And when we allow these things, the Bible calls it sin, when we allow these things in our life, it not only pulls us further away from the Father, it doesn't take away your salvation, but it not only pulls you further away from the Father, but it lets you experience, he goes on later on of experiencing death. And I think that could be like a spiritual death. That could be physical death, because there's some of those decisions that could cost us our life. Mm-hmm. But we're also experiencing like that death inside of us of, oh my gosh, like you could destroy your marriage. You could destroy your life. You could destroy your relationship with your kids. And I really think James is trying to warn us of that. Well, it's so crazy to me. 15 minutes has already passed on our time.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
You gotta stop talking so much. Waste your time, man.
It's so good. Like you dive in and you forget how long you've been here, right? Yeah. Well, guys, when we come back, we will pick up, I believe, on verse 16. And we'll keep going. We're going to keep plowing through James. And so hope you guys have a good week, and we'll see you next time.
Maybe I'll have makeup on from when the bull hits me with the bull.
Yeah. I'm giving you a chance to say peace. You didn't
peace.
Say. Thanks for listening to the Words with Woodsman podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. We'll see you next time.